The country of Ukraine has a history that is closely knit into the fabric of Russia, but within the last few decades has grown further and further apart from the Soviet ties that bound them together. Ukraine has grown and endured through much during that time, and we'd like to focus on the history of the modern independent Ukraine and the history of its nation.
3-minute flicks. Entertaining, educating, and enlightening.
The birth of the Ukraine coincided alongside one of the most prominent deaths in human history, that being of the Soviet Union. After having been part of the USSR since 1922 and demands for independence for many years before the official collapse of the Union, Ukraine would finally be given a chance to fight for their freedom. In 1990, soon before the Union would dissolve, 300,000 Ukrainians would join arms in a 300-mile-long human chain in opposition of the Soviet Union and would raise the blue and yellow Ukrainian flag in solidarity for the first time in decades. In 1991, almost immediately after the USSR dissolved, Ukraine would vote in overwhelming support of their independence and aim to place measures so that joining a reformation of the USSR or anything similar would never happen again. With their statehood claimed and announcement of independence, Ukraine would become the second largest country in Europe by landmass with a population of over 52 million, and a massive amount of healthy, farmable land to boot. At the end of 2004, the Ukrainians would be forced to fight for the freedom once more, as an election between a Western-leaning Democratic candidate and a Russian-backed candidate created a massive controversy during an election. A mysterious poisoning of the Western candidate would result in an unfair victory towards the Russian candidate. Protests and outcry over the next 2 months would prove to be so powerful that a revote was forced, and the Western candidate would be voted in as president, solidifying not only Ukraine's desire for independence, but their willingness to fight for it. This obviously would not be the only Russian interference, as Russia would continue to block Ukraine from joining NATO and the EU through political interference and threats towards other nations of war. Soon after another major political scandal and suspected Russian manipulation in the Ukraine elections, Russia would invade and seize Crimea, a Ukrainian peninsula, an action that other nations condemned but were forced to sit idly with concerns over the spark of another world war. However, in 2019, Ukraine would take another important stride in solidifying their government from Russia when Volodymyr Zelensky won in a landslide victory against the Russian-backed incumbent. Alongside this win, Zelensky's party would win a majority of seats in parliament, laying the groundwork for the campaign's goals of rooting out Russian corruption and ending the war with Russia for good. And that brings us to today. It would be neglectful to turn a blind eye to the current conflict in the Ukraine. On February 24, 2022, Vladimir Putin would begin a full-scale invasion of the Ukraine in an attempt to regain control of not only the land they own, but the political power of the Ukraine as well. As this war is ongoing, only time will tell what future is in store for Ukraine as either a democracy or as part of the Russian Federation.
Three-minute flicks. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We create new videos weekly.